Hello! Today I'm presenting 10 plus practical steps across 3 areas for how I'm recovering from burnout and chronic illness at home without therapy. Just a quick backstory on me. My name is Zhenya. I used to be a PhD student in Eastern European history and a university lecturer. And then about 13 months ago, I burned out and I got chronically ill. And ever since then, it's been, a continuous fight for recovery. And today I wanted to share my system and also very practical steps for what helped me personally recover. And because I'm generous like that, I'm also giving you 3 PSAs sprinkled throughout. And I will fill this out. I know you're burned out, so don't worry, you don't have to write it down immediately. I'm doing it for you. And then you can just copy it. So the first area I really had to focus my recovery on was physical. And that is because burnout for me expressed itself, as I said, in chronic illness, which means that I was chronically fatigued and had chronic migraines for about a year. So the first thing I really had to do was that I had to find physical accommodations. So, by the way, it also turns out that I'm neurodivergent. So that means that my physical accommodations are, a bit different maybe than yours. But what I really needed to do was to replace the lights in my home. And not necessarily all lights, but definitely the lights in my bedroom and in my office where I currently am. Because it turns out that normal lights flicker, and they flicker in a way that can induce migraines. So I actually had to get Philips Hue lamps, which have helped hugely because you can dim them, you can change the colors. This is not an ad, but I really recommend that you check them out. They can be very expensive, but there are cheaper options from Philips coming in. And I'm just saying that because a lot of the cheap options you can find on Amazon actually don't work the same way. So if that is something you struggle with, I encourage you to research that. Then I also had to start wearing noise cancelling headphones. I've always worn headphones, but I really had to get noise cancelling headphones for when I'm going out, when I'm at the supermarket, on the bus, wherever. Like I'm always wearing huge headphones, like you can recognize me by them probably. And also inside the house. It's kind of like a joke with my roommate. She makes her morning coffee and I put on my headphones because I just can't stand the sound of the coffee machine. So become really aware of your sensory needs. And actually, let me write it down for you right now. I hope you can see that. I apologize, my handwriting really isn't great. And I forgot the first PSA. The most important PSA, these are not short. The last thing you need to be doing during burnout recovery is to be putting like a bunch of things onto your list just to do, because let me tell you, that is what got you burned out. I bet it did, because it did for me. So please look at all of these things I'm talking about as options. Consider how do they work for you, how can you implement them, and maybe what doesn't work for you. How does this land for you? Is this something that is achievable for you right now? Is it a bit of a stretch? Is it something you definitely should not be doing? And consider all of that as you are taking in this information, because this is not about things you should be doing, but this is about things that might help you, and they can only help you if you understand that you are someone that gets to receive help, right? Okay, so as I said, area physical, sensory accommodations. Then I started working out again. This deserves its own video, working out with chronic illness, but so it's very important for me to work out. It's important for my self-image, it's important for my mental health, and it is important for me to have like a sense of self, right? So I did not do this to lose weight or to get a bikini body or whatever hell like the wellness industry has told you. Forget that. I want you to consider this if it is something that feels good to you, right? If you're like me, you enjoy working out, I want you to consider how to implement that into your life. And I know that this is not easy if you're burned out. Last year, there were months when I couldn't even really leave my bed. Okay, I was not working out then. Yeah. But if you are in a position where, like physically you are able to do this, then I want you to consider it. Alternatively, which is, equally important actually, I would like you to consider taking daily walks in nature if possible. And actually forget daily walks, just consider one single walk in nature. Because walking in nature is so inherently healing for the human body. Like the actual trauma therapy is based on what the human body and human brain does as you're taking a walk. So if it is possible for you, take a small walk. And if it's just 10 minutes around your house, right? Even just getting outside, getting some fresh air, some sunlight, if possible, can really do wonders. Connecting to that, I would also say yoga is a possibility. I've recently picked up yoga again, and actually I've been going to yoga studio. I just used to do it at home. And yoga, specifically yin yoga, so yoga where you really go into healing the fascia, really holding poses for 5 minutes at a time, is extremely relaxing to the nervous system. And a lot of what I'm talking about here today is really just about relaxing your nervous system, right? Okay, so let me write that one down. Oh, and a bonus point I did mention, working with your medical professionals should also be like something to consider, but you are likely already doing that. Right, eating, food is very important. And again, against wellness culture, I actually had to eat more. And now you might be thinking, okay, Zhenya, but you're already like kind of thick. You know, like what do you mean you had to eat more? I had to eat more. There were days last year where I truly believe I would not have eaten anything if my roommate hadn't brought me food to my room. And not because I was refusing food, but because like my body literally did not have any hunger signals it was sending me. So I would have just forgotten. It did not occur to me. So really watch what you're eating in the sense of, are you getting enough? Because when your body is in burnout, which is not just a mental thing, it is a physical illness. Like, are you getting the nutrients you need? Are you at least getting the calories you need? And again, if possible, maybe talk to your medical professional about that. And the last one in the physical category, the most fun one, is beauty. Yes, I said it, beauty, actually. So what was personally very important for me in my burnout, because I was feeling, so low. Like mentally, I was just destroyed. I felt like, especially because like I actually had to leave my PhD position, right? So this huge identity marker of being in academia just fell away. And so it became much more important for me to really identify with like who I am right now, right? And like this is hard to put into words, but for me, beauty in myself and in my environment is very important. Like I know, for example, that there are people who prefer body neutrality, who say that it should not be important to me how I look for my self-worth, and I love that for them. That is not me. For me, it is personally important that I do feel beautiful. And I do not mean pretty in the sense of styling, in the sense of what society thinks, but like beautiful in myself, in a beauty that comes from the inside, extends to the outside. And yes, styling can be part of that. Colors can be part of that, but it should really be about what makes you as a person feel beautiful, right? Not attractive, not pretty, not sexy, beautiful. So that is one that is more out there, but I would really encourage you to consider, like, how can I make my environment beautiful, like in a way that expresses beauty to me? And if you're wondering, yes, that is why my whiteboard is pink and why my microphone is pink. And I just realized that this is tiny, but I do hope that if you're following the video, you should be able to tell what I'm saying. Okay, PSA 2. Life is supposed to be fun. Yes, I said it. Life is supposed to be fun. I know no one has probably ever told you that before, and being from an immigrant family, trust me, I know that it is not always fun, but it is supposed to be fun, okay? If you're like me, then the reason you burned out is probably that you squeezed all the joy out of your life. Like everything that could be whimsical, that could be fun, anything that is not immediately useful, you squeeze it out because you felt you had to. And I've been there. I've really been there. And this connects back to beauty, right? Like, because we're often told that beauty is not necessary because it is luxury. But beauty makes you feel good, right? Like you enjoy being in beautiful environments. You enjoy feeling beautiful. And especially when you are burned out, right? Don't you deserve to feel a little beautiful, to feel a little luxury, to have something nice for yourself? Which brings me to my next point, like the next area of recovery, which is mental and emotional. And I'm grouping these together because, often we try to separate these two, but I don't really believe that, because your emotions live in your body, your thoughts live in your body, your thoughts produce your emotions, and your emotions produce your thoughts. So why are we separating these? The next thing I want you to consider is creativity. How can you be creative in your daily life? And I recently made a video about that, like creativity as healing the inner teenager, but creativity is, also healing your your current self. Because again, creativity is often something that we are told is unnecessary. I believe that's a lie. I actually believe that creativity is extremely necessary for health. And I know that because I burned out when I abandoned all my creative pursuits in favor of, just being in academia, just doing my PhD, and it really just everything else fell away. And now that I'm in recovery, that I'm getting back into my creative pursuits, I'm just realizing how much losing that part of me helped me really burn myself to the ground. I'm a writer, so I often talk about writing, but creativity is really anything under the sun, anything that makes you feel like you're expressing yourself. I often say that, for example, cooking is also creativity, obviously. Like some people are really into, like, what's it called? Like when you're building something with wood, for example, it's also creativity. Like anything can be creativity. Anything that you feel is an expression of yourself, that is a luxury that you did as a child. Like something you would have done as a child. Like you could have spent an entire afternoon as a child doing this. Whatever that is, please consider implementing it into your life. The next part that really helped me recover from burnout is journaling. So I've always been a very avid journaler. I have like an entire row in my office, like full of just my old journals. So to me, it is really helpful to be doing morning pages. So the technique that Julia Cameron proposes in The Artist's Way, which means that every morning you're writing 3 pages of just, whatever is on your mind. Like literally, like it could be like, just brain dumping. Can be you have some journaling prompts. Personally, I prefer free writing because the first page is usually just like, whatever is really on the surface. Like I'm already aware of this. Second page is usually, I'm starting to get a sense that there's something there. Page 3, I usually discover something I never would have even considered. So when you really get into this habit of journaling, you get rid of this overwhelm, this mental overwhelm that burnout can often produce. So please consider that. The next one also connects back to creativity, joy, and beauty, which is that you should find simple joys. Like I already mentioned this, like what would your inner child have liked doing? But really, don't just think about creativity, because often we think about creativity, again, in the sense of the adult world, where everything has to be monetizable. Like, if you can't sell this to someone, if you can't build a business based on this, then it is not worth pursuing. No. Like, so you have your, like, creative joys you had as a child, and then you had, like, just joy, Like, for example, I really like playing video games, specifically RPGs, and specifically farming sims, which is like one of my special interests, actually. So if you're neurodivergent, you really need to lean into your special interests. Like leaning into my special interests is really what got me back to life during the last year. But this applies to anyone, also neurotypical people, right? So like what really brought you joy as a child? I really loved playing Harvest Moon as a child. Like I was so obsessed with it. Harvest Moon, yes, cute specifically, and like other games. And so as an adult, I still enjoy playing farming sims. So during the last year, I really, like, I made it almost like a habit, not a rule, a habit, that every single evening I would spend at least an hour playing a farming sim I really enjoyed. And this did so much for my mental health. Because again, with burnout, you burn out, like you're burned to the ground because there's nothing that you're doing that brings you joy. Like I truly believe that the issue of burnout is not that you're doing too much, but that you're doing too little of what brings you joy. So whatever that is for you, like I have no idea. It could be rock collection, could be pressing leaves, could be watching cartoons, whatever it is. Whatever it is you really enjoy doing as a child that you think is too self-indulgent now, please do it. And I realize right now that you can barely read this, but that's I hope that you will be able to decipher this based on what I've said. Okay, last PSA after these are not chores and you're supposed to enjoy your life. You got this. I know it's hard. I know it's very hard. I know it's so tough being trapped in your own mind and in your own body, and life goes on. People continue living, people continue doing things that you want to be doing, that you once were capable of doing, and right now it's not possible. And I know how shattering that can be, especially if you're someone who has always defined themselves by what they can or can't do. But you got this, really. And you can do hard things. Like if you're someone who burned out, that means you did a lot of hard things, and you did them maybe a bit too much, and that is human. And so you can do this very hard thing, which is recovery. And if you're watching this, that means that you have the will to do so. You have the will to recover, and you also have the will to become better for it, right? And not better in the self-optimizing way, but better in the way of healthier, in the version of you that enjoys life more, that has more joy. Because before my burnout, I didn't have a pink whiteboard. I wasn't wearing my favorite colors. I wasn't writing. I was just, existing. And so my burnout has really been the best thing that has happened to me, the best thing that could have happened to me, because it showed me that the path I was going down was not sustainable. And I'm so glad that it happened, because that allows me to build something new from the ground up. And so this connects to the third area that really helped me recover from my burnout, and that is spirituality. And I don't mean spirituality in the way of any particular religion or any particular spiritual path. I mean it in the sense of faith in something bigger, right? Faith in that there's something bigger than you and me, that maybe we do not understand, but that there is a reason for everything. Like, I really needed to develop faith, and like faith that it would get better, faith that there was something for me to hold on to. Like, I spent so many nights, like I would say out of 365 days last year, I spent 300 days crying, right? And I spent so many nights crying, just wondering, why am I going on? This pain is too much, right? Because for me, my burnout also brought up so much trauma, so many childhood memories and everything that has been unprocessed in my life. And so many nights I was thinking, why should I go on? What should I do? And so I had to make this up, right? You can make this up. You can just decide. You can just decide, no, this is not how it ends. This is not how my story ends. This is, like, as I said, I'm a writer, so every hero, right, on their journey has like the darkest moment. They have the dark night of the soul where everything is shattered and it doesn't look like they can recover. And that is usually the point where, after which there's the biggest growth, because that is the point where the hero really realizes their own power. And so that is what happened to me, and I believe that is what will also happen to you. So as I said, you need faith, or at least I needed faith to recover from my burnout, and a lot of releasing old pain, a lot of alchemizing a lot of pain, a lot of letting a lot of people go, like in the sense of really drawing boundaries with a lot of people, and I do make videos about that, but also releasing like old resentment I held. And not in the sense that I was forgiving them for them, but that I was forgiving them for me. Because resentment also makes you ill, right? It is a weight you carry in your body and in your soul. And you cannot afford that right now. Like, when you are burned out, you really need all your strength to recover, to get better. And you cannot be using your strength to hold onto pain. Like, if you're willingly holding onto something, and I know this is hard to hear, because I used to be the queen of resentment, but like, you are just hurting yourself. Like the allegory of resentment is like swallowing poison hoping the other person dies. It really is true. And I know it's not easy. Again, like, I talk about a lot of techniques for alchemizing pain on this channel, but your burnout can be a catalyst. It can really be the catalyst to help you get rid of what wasn't aligned for you in your life, and to call in what is aligned for you, to call in the more evolved, more healthy, more joyous version of yourself. And for that, you kind of need to clean out the old junk. Like, there's no way around it. And one technique I will give here is meditation, just because meditation is like journaling, so instrumental in my life, right? Like, every morning, every night, I meditate and I journal. And it has truly helped me transform so much pain. It has helped me evolve. And there are so many ways of meditation. Again, this is an entire video. But if you have never meditated before, I would encourage you to look at guided meditations. There's the Calm app, you probably know it already, and it is very popular. It's how I got started in meditation like 10 years ago. Again, this is not an ad, this is a recommendation for something I have used for many, many years that really like transformed my life. And then just start. There are so many different ways of meditation. It doesn't have to be even sitting meditation. You can also do walking meditation, combine that with the walking I mentioned earlier, and really find your own way. Because, as I said, burnout recovery is a journey. It is difficult, I will not lie to you. Like, there is no way around it. But as I said, you can do difficult things, you can do hard things. And just sitting through this entire video, if you did that, then you're ready. You can do it. And yeah, my name is Genia. I make content on inner work, creativity, like everything under the sun connected to personal development and healing your trauma, becoming like a more creative, spiritual person. And I really hope this was helpful. Please tell me what your burnout struggles are, so maybe I can make some more videos about it. Specifically for me, again, my burnout was not just academic burnout. My burnout was also autistic burnout. It was nervous system collapse from childhood, CPTSD. So like, obviously it's like a bit more complex. And if there's something you want help with, then please leave a comment and I will see whether I can make a video on that. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.